Hold on. Hold on just 1 second. Okay, good. Okay, let's go on.
Video. There we go.
Oh, there we go. We're live. Let me see. It automatically pops me into the live. Let's see here. Here we are.
Yay. I always want to say good morning. I know it's not morning, but that's just such a, I did that for so many years, greeting people as they were walking onto campus. So it's like ingrained. Like instead of saying hello, my go-to is good morning, everybody.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our live. That's awesome. Let's see here. I'm just going to say, let us know where you're from.
Okay. All right. So I don't see it yet here on my end, but that might be because I'm doing something wrong.
If you, mine automatically pops up, but I'm wondering if you go down to the tab that says, I have a podcast and then I have that maybe there's something that says live and see if
I'm
that's
on that page. And I
okay.
see our past lives, but right now it hasn't popped up yet.
Okay.
So we'll just wait and see what happens. But if you're seeing people on your end, then we'll just go.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing us. I'm seeing us, and so all of this is being recorded, so that's kind of funny, but
Yeah. Well, we can just, I mean, start talking about our superpowers if you want.
yeah, I think that we should do that. I think we should do that. And as people log on, they can let us know where they're from, and I'll watch the chat and I'll see if anybody logs on. So the last time we met, we're talking about the shadow always because each of us has written a shadow book, but we're also talking about our superpowers. And when we talk about superpowers, it's really kind of interesting. I'd like to kick it off like this, Stephanie. Yesterday, um, I interviewed a wonderful author by the name of Catherine Gerdes, and
Okay.
her book that came out last year, Astrology and Shadow Work.
Oh, oh, awesome.
And
Oh,
so
that's
yeah, I almost asked her to come on with us tonight, but I was like, so I posed a question to her. I said, a lot of times with shadow work, people get this negative connotation that it's my evil side, it's my bad side, it's the part of me that isn't acceptable. When in truth, I asked her, but then you and I have mentioned, yeah, we understand that taboo side. However, there is this other aspect of finding superpowers, right, in your
hmm
gifts.
hmm hmm
And so I asked her what her view was like, does gifts hide within the shadow? And what does that look like? How does she see the world? And she's a Gemini. So I said, how do you see that? And she goes, well, shadow means hidden. It doesn't mean evil. It doesn't mean bad. It means
Right.
hidden. And sometimes when you dig up those shadows, this is what she said, sometimes when you bring light to that shadow, you do find gifts. You do find superpowers because they were hidden as well. And so I thought about that and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's very true because like for example, in my story, I was highly psychic as a child, and then, long story short, I shut it down. I did my best to shut it down, right?
hmm
And because I wanted to run away from it, and And then so I kind of hid my gifts in the shadow. So I thought that was interesting. And then I think about all of these children who have these wonderful experiences. And when you talk to them as an adult, they'll say, "Oh yeah, when I was little, I saw ghosts, but I don't see that anymore." And I'm like, it does, the gift doesn't go away.
Right, right.
It just
So
can be
why did it
blocked.
become hidden in the first place?
Right, right.
Shame,
Shame.
trauma.
Yep.
Yeah. People telling us that's not the way we act. That's
Yep.
not real. Whatever it is, we hide parts of ourselves because we feel shamed by them. We
Yep.
feel that. And so sometimes in the hidden self becomes the misuse of self also. And so
Oh,
because it's never going away, it's still there. And sometimes we misuse and then recreate that shame over and over again.
yeah, some of the shame too, especially when we're talking about hiding your superpowers, which we'll get into that a little bit. I think for me, I'm just talking about like your psychic gifts and everything and your brilliance. But for me, I think a lot of people may hide them because they were told by whatever organization that that is the devil's work,
Yeah,
right? That's
I have a story exactly that. I have that story.
Tell the
Would you like me
story.
to tell that
I
story?
would love the story. Tell us the
Okay.
story.
So, growing up, there was a Baptist preacher who lived at the top of the cul-de-sac. So we lived on a hill, and at the top of the hill was a cul-de-sac, and he was one of the houses right at the top. And on Sundays, he would hold a little mini, Bible reading Sunday school for just the kids on the cul-de-sac. Um, well, me and my sisters really did it. We just wanted to hang out with the other kids, of course, right? And here's my astrologer mom, and I was 5. And here's me being already with the dream world, already telepathic, already expressing this stuff. And amongst other things, this preacher singled me out every weekend, and I was 5. And he told me I had to memorize passages in the Bible, and I couldn't have anyone help me read it. I was 5. I didn't know how to read. Um, he told me that my mind was evil, my brain, the fact that I had different types of thoughts was actually evil. And one Sunday, um, I was the youngest of everybody, except for maybe one of his daughters. And I would sit with my 2 older sisters every Sunday. And this one Sunday, he had gotten, it was like to the point where he was so frustrated and he couldn't like argue the evil out of me that he made me sit in the middle of the road by myself. All the other kids were on the sidewalk, and I had to sit in the road, in the pavement. And I
Wow.
cried. I remember crying. I don't think I cried the whole time. I just remember I might not have actually even cried on the outside, but I definitely remember the feeling. Yeah. And I just remember him telling me I was evil. And he wasn't even the only family on the block back then. If I was 5, this was 1981. And there was a lot of other parents, not my mom for sure, that would tell me that I was evil, literally evil, because I had thoughts that they couldn't comprehend.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And how like destructive. That breaks my heart for your inner 5-year old. But I think that you sharing that story, I think, other people will kind of relate to whatever it is within them that they were told, we don't do that in public. We don't, lessen those gifts. And so, like, what kind of gifts? Let's get into the gifts. Because now we know that a lot of our gifts can be hidden due to shame and judgment, even from an organization, as well
Mm,
as, because they're afraid. So
right.
the gifts, let's explain some of the superpower gifts. Do you want to go there?
Absolutely. So, if we're going to just start with that story, one of the things that started to develop in me was not talking about myself, not talking about the way I saw the world, right? I learned at obviously a very young age not to let my vulnerability show through. So, what I became really good at, and of course, there's a lot of psychology behind this, but it also just enhanced my telepathic and my psychic abilities because what I became really good at was instead of understanding my own vulnerability and my own emotions, was understanding everybody else's. I can tell you exactly what you're feeling, exactly what you're going through. I know where it came from. I know where it's going. I understand your emotions to a T. To this day, I sit there like a deer in headlights when my husband is like, "You're probably feeling this." I'm like, "Okay, you could be right. I don't know though." Like, I can't, it's so hard for me to, I'm reactive, I'm emotional, but I can't identify. I still can't, which is why obviously we're shadow work is always a continuous process. And it's another reason why I read so many psychology books and, you know, I can't, I need to understand what this is. But if I'm sitting in front of you and I'm reading you, I got all the scientific words, I got all the emotional words, I got all the labels. I understand what you're going through. I don't understand what I'm feeling. And that's a direct result. That's a superpower that was misused and misguided and hidden because I was told that my feelings and the way, because of course, at 5 years old, I'm not telling you how you feel. I'm telling you how I see the world. I wrote a poem at a very young age about my backyard being my steeple and, the whole and the world coming to it. And, just feeling all this love and light and just being under this huge tree that we had. And then being told, like, no, your feelings are evil. Okay, well then let me see your feelings. Let me feel your feelings because mine are obviously evil. So it was thrusted into the shadow, right?
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
still having a hard time balancing it out, right? So it's not toxic for other people. It may have been quite a few times in my life growing up. Lots of anger, right? Lots of unbalanced emotions. It's not so much anymore for myself or other people, but it's still not in balance. I'm still
right.
trying to balance out all of that energy and that beautiful superpower. If I could then use that superpower to totally diagnose myself, that would be amazing. But it turned into, you know, the greatest empathic ability I think anyone can really, have. I can really empathize and understand people and I can see it. I think because it was so dark and so dense and just thrusted and put so out of balance that my inner vision became everybody else's inner vision. I could
Yeah,
then see your thoughts. I can see inside of your energy.
yeah,
So it's interesting because there are tons of other superpowers, but talking about how it winds up in the shadow in that way where it's hidden to even ourselves. It's not
right,
always,
right, right, right.
there's always shadow with the light, but that's just the light hitting something, right?
Yeah.
It's just,
So we have Mira is here. She says, Namaste, GDC and Stephanie, and hearts and all of this. I'm so excited to be here with you guys once again. She's got the butterfly because she's a butterfly. Yeah, I definitely understand that. A lot of times, highly sensitive and empathic beings were raised in situations where they had to read the room for
right.
survival, or that's how we understood it as children, that you have to notice all the details and you have to do all of that. And that is a superpower, but you also, what it does is it detaches from how do I feel about this? I don't know. I have to be alone in a room by myself and do some energetic clearing in order to go, okay, this is mine. This is mine, that kind of a thing. And then along with that, so like some of the gifts that I have, they they come so like a superpower is, well, like you said, the ability to read the room.
Mhm.
Also, another superpower is like empathy. Another superpower is deep understanding, which a lot of times we can get caught in because sometimes we understand so deeply the abuser that we dismiss that, and we kind of touched on that before. And it's kind
Right.
of like, so the balance of uncovering that, oh wow, that might be like, maybe I was born empathic, but I really had to utilize that and grow that so that I wouldn't have to be in the middle of the road crying as a 5-year-old and be under that type of pressure. Another
Mhm.
one for me is I like that one. I think another one for me is my the way that I see things. It's like I just know things sometimes. And I tried to hide what I know, right? I tried to hide, oops, what I know because sometimes I thought it was really obvious. Like for example, I was working in corporate America and there was this one example where this person walked past my office and I said, "How's the move going?" And they stopped and they were like, "What?" I said, "Aren't you moving?" Like I thought that it was common knowledge because I knew it. And they're just like, I didn't tell anybody that. Or one time I was like, I bet it's my boss's birthday because they act like a Virgo. Let's go out and get him a card. So I go out and get him a card, come back in with the whole team, happy birthday. And if I was wrong, no harm, no foul. But if I was right, maybe it'd make them happy. Oh, I got in trouble for that one too, because it scares people.
Mhm.
It's because this
Yeah.
was a lady who was very private, and she goes, "Only HR knows when my birthday is. How did you know?" And I just said, "Because you act like a Virgo." And so there's a lot of times that even, I mean, you and I make our living off of our superpowers, so we've come to terms with them. But for the listening audience, think about those times that you have felt something and you're just like, "Ooh, if I tell somebody that I heard that or had that phenomenon or experienced this or how I put it together because I saw two hawks or whatever, maybe they're gonna commit me." That kind of
Oh gosh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I have a story that's similar to that too, but
Yeah.
I don't think I'll go into that particular hospital story. But it can be super scary. And we are born with these superpowers, whether they're metaphysical or just talents. And what happens is they're nurtured out of us because of whatever belief system umbrella we're surrounded by. And that's how they become hidden.
Yeah.
Um, one of my superpowers is my vision, and it's my inner vision. I
Right.
can see things in detail. I can see the void. People have asked me, and I'm like, no, I can see the void. I can see the beings that live in the void. But you can't talk about that when you're 16, hanging out with other 16-year-olds, and they're like, what do you mean you can see the void?
Right.
So you hide it. I
Yeah.
also am legally blind. So I wear contacts, I have glasses. My first pair of glasses was when I was in kindergarten. And I always tell people I can see better when my eyes are closed. I can see energy, I can see pictures, I can see beyond dimensions. And it's like that is also a shadow side of myself because technically it's a physical aspect that's not working. So the metaphysical aspect is enhanced.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I have yeah, my vision is very dim as well. And I have to agree with you there. So another thing, so like when we're talking about superpowers, I kind of want to just take a moment and list out the superpowers so that the listeners can kind of identify with maybe what superpower they align with. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that's wonderful. It's there's so many to identify. I will give a shot and I will go in my expertise in the way of the chakras, right? And so this is something that I do write about. So being able to create foundations, security, safety, and whatever that looks like, right? That's a superpower. Whether you are an earth sign or just somebody who has that talent that brings that to the table. You know what I think the best way that I like to look at it is if we were stripped down of our modern society and brought back to primitive living as a community, what do you genuinely bring to the table? What is your soul there bringing to the table? Because that's your superpower. We just have been in this modern society where we have to fit in. We can't use our individual superpower to better the community. It's not about isolation, it's about connection. Here are my gifts. What are your gifts? Right. And so you can do the whole energy system, and we all have, some people are heart centered. I think that even though my vision is so strong, I honestly believe, and I write about this, that one of the greatest psychic centers in all of our energy system is our sacral, is the creator, is that, the core of our being. That's our manifestation energy center. That's where we create life. That's probably why purple and orange are my favorite colors.
Yeah, I love that. And so reflecting on the superpower and the idea of if you were stripped away and you were born 250 years ago on the other side of the world and you lived in a tribe, what is it that you naturally and organically do without being pushed by this life society? And I think for me, and I like doing the chakras, so like foundation, creation, empowerment, heart centered, and all of those, whatever you bring to the community in that natural, organic way is a superpower. I think also what I bring as a superpower that I didn't even realize until now is my curiosity.
Hmm.
I am very, very
That's so
curious.
huge.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious. And for those watching, if you want to drop into the chat, like, what would you bring to a community? Like social justice? Would you bring an excellent cook? Would you be the one who helps people heal? Like, what would you bring? One of mine would definitely be curiosity.
And
And
think about the early curious people. They're the ones that created philosophy, created science, created math. They're the ones that looked up at the stars and went, can I follow those? I mean, curiosity is a foundational superpower. I love that so much.
I love that.
Those are leaders.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because, I was like, oh, claircognizance, clairvoyance, clairsentient, clairgustient, clairaudient, like those, I was thinking that we would go there, but this is so much richer when we talk about the shadow and superpowers. It really has to do with what organically was born within your soul that you could share with the community. Mine definitely is curiosity. I think that's why I'm still alive. They say that curiosity killed the cat, but that's only half of it. It's curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. So, you have to be curious. And then once that curiosity gets satisfied, then you're like, okay. And it's what led me. Oh, I love this. So we've got some more. I love that empathy is a superpower. Oh, Mira, the butterfly priestess, she would bring forth compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Talk
Mm-hmm.
to us. What are you like? That's a heart-driven
Right.
feeling.
So think about the original people with the heart center compassion. Those are the original healers. You have to have deep compassion in order to say, I will take on this job of taking the sick, whether it is spiritually, mentally, physically. Your heart has to be able to be in it. So when your superpower is compassion, that is a healer by nature. That is somebody who just wants to bring the connection back to somebody who, whatever they're going through, right? Whatever energy system is broken within them, they have that ability to connect back, help them connect back to
Absolutely.
themselves. I mean, that I can feel that in my heart. I can feel when somebody says compassion is their superpower. My heart does this. Oh, interesting. It does this like butterfly feeling. Like I can,
Why?
yeah, I can feel it, Mira. So yeah, absolutely. That's a huge, your psychic abilities are absolutely superpowers, but their psychic abilities for me and the way that I look at all things metaphysical is, and we've talked about this before, is about all of the energy systems. It's not just about this energy system right here.
Yes.
All of this, being able to feel compassion is being able to psychically connect to somebody else's heart
Yeah.
and understand this person needs love, whatever it is. I might not be able to have the visions or hear the words, but I can feel their heart. That is the psychic ability. That is penetrating through energy that we can't see.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me because what we have, and again, if you're just joining us now, feel free to drop a hello in the chat, as well as right now we're talking about this idea if you were stripped away of this society and born in 250 years ago on the other side of this earth into a tribe, what would you bring forth? What would you add to the tribe naturally and organically, and identifying that as one of your superpowers? So back to what we were just saying, it's kind of like, so empathy as a superpower, curiosity as a superpower, um, compassion as a superpower. Why would we hide these? It's almost like a double-edged sword. It's kind of like you got to wield it correctly because sometimes you can find a lot of pain in being compassionate. You can run into a lot of trouble when you're curious. You can run into a lot of trouble when you're an empath. So reasons why, like what is the opposite side of what people would experience, which is those three, will explain to us why we put it in the shadow. So for example, one of the hard things about being an empath is the overstimulation of energy or feeling things when you're just out in general public, um, connecting too deeply and feeling like somebody who can't digest their own feelings and you help them digest their feelings, all of that's really hard. What else do we have with that one, Stephanie?
Um, Hold on. I heard a couple of different things. So what else do we have in terms of how it gets hidden? Or is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Okay.
like what is the harsh part of that
Yeah.
gift and that superpower? And that is the reason why we end up hiding it sometimes. So what's the harsh side of our superpower? Be it empathy, be it curiosity, or be it like compassion.
Right. Okay. So all things for me, all things become harsh when we misuse them or abuse them. So in the beginning, like we were saying earlier, when we're first born, we pretty much know who we are. But then we get told who we are and we get told what kind of society we're living in. And of course, we have to be nurtured. We don't walk right away like some animals, some species, we don't know how to find our own food right away. So there's definitely, because of who we are, we have learning things we have to adjust to. But then there are some things that we didn't need to learn, but they fed us those learning things anyway. This is the way you need to speak. This is the way you need to write. This is the way you need to forge your future. This is the cultural beliefs you have to have. This is the religious beliefs you have to have in order to be a good person. And those things are all the things we know naturally. So when any of our natural gifts, be it empathy, be it sight, be it storytelling, be it, creation, I'm a natural born artist. When they get misguided, somebody comes in and says, oh, no, you're not good enough to sing for our tribe, let's say. We're going to go to all these other tribes and find a new bard, a new vocalist, a new storyteller. then you create shame, right? So now how do you get that energy out of your body, because that is who you are? Well, maybe you go and start screaming in the woods, and
Right.
now that scream is filled with pain because you've been shunned or you've been told you can't use your ability because it's not up to par to now all these other vocalists we've gained access to. So because you're not up to par to that one over there, we're not going to let you use yours, but it's still in you. So
Right.
again, and now it's filled with pain. So that's where it becomes, because screaming in general doesn't necessarily relate to toxic. It doesn't necessarily have screeching in it. It doesn't necessarily hurt us. But when we're screaming from pain and not screaming for joy or whatever, then it becomes shrill, right? And it becomes painful. And it becomes like, well, I have to go do it in private. I have to go hide because they haven't accepted my gifts. So anything that is told not to do that, but you in your heart don't know any other way to be, your energy will find ways for it to come out, but now it's going to come out with pain, with anger, with aggression, with almost like a temper tantrum of energy, because you can't not be who you are. You can only create toxicity of your natural energy.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think that I like that because, be it compassion, and then let's say that it gets taken advantage of. And then we become like, well, I'm just going to close my heart away, even though I can feel all of this. But now I feel it, and I'm upset that I'm wrong for being such an open heart. Or for me, my curiosity, on one hand, it led me out of a lot of hard, like brainwashed, cult-like belief systems, but it also is the side of me that I will go popping into the executive room and go, "Oh, are we being taken over by another company? Because that's what it feels like. I'm curious. Is that?" And everybody's like,
And you say inappropriate things. Yeah. Yeah, and the toxic side of somebody who's naturally born compassionate and empathetic that gets told not to do that usually becomes codependent, because I connect with you naturally, and now you're telling me to disconnect, but all my heart wants to do is connect, and so now I'm scared to be abandoned because you're telling me to disconnect when my heart just wants to connect. And it's very confusing for the energy. So there's a lot of ways we can look at all of the superpowers as being hidden in the shadow. But when you do this shadow work, you
"Yes,
realize, oh, hold on, that was just their opinion. That's not real.
I love that." And that's the whole thing, is that going through shadow work, you may find, "Oh, wow, I get to be myself." But
Right.
I'm going to do it with healthy boundaries and with people that actually reciprocate with whatever energy, not with people who tell me that I'm wrong. Like, there's a lot of people, because of what I do and because of what you do, that would say that we are bad, right? Because we're
Hmm.
psychic and we're writing books about shadows, and all of that kind of stuff. But we have found our community where they actually are like, yes, please do. So
Hmm.
doing shadow work and then finding the community that appreciates who you actually are with that superpower of compassion, curiosity, foundational, bring the singer, the creator, the all of those types of things. And I love thinking about those as a superpower because there are some like artists that I'm just like, they just like know. And
Right.
just this beauty that I'm just like, wow. And I admire them for it. And I think to myself, wow, if they were ashamed, I would never be able to sit here and appreciate the bright light that they bring into the world. And so then I take that same thought and I put it towards myself. If I allow my this shame and to be hidden away in the darkness, then I don't get to breathe. I feel pain. Plus, the world doesn't get to, my tribe doesn't get to benefit from what I get to share. So it's also about finding your tribe, finding the people who appreciate you for who you actually are, not trying to make you
Right.
something that you're not. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, there was a time where we used to actually celebrate being individuals, back not in our lifetimes, right? And then the trend became, sure, you can be an individual just as long as you fit into this box, right? Just
Right.
as long as you're conservative or liberal or, Roman or English, as long as you fit into a label, you can be as individual as you want. And now we've squeezed it even further. We have so many, it's so ironic to me to watch the world right now because they're screaming for freedom of identity, but they're putting everything in a box. Every little detail has to be in a box and label,
Right.
label, 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 label. And it's like, that is it's confusing to me and mind-boggling to me because to me, the freedom is stripping away it's just being me. It's the I am. Like I've said before, there is no label. There is just me. I am. And don't give me a label. I have a hard time with all of the labels. And that's not to say you can't describe me. Describe me as much as you want. Identify me in the way that is comfortable for you. That's not going to change the way that I live in any way. And that to me is celebrating individuals. And like you said, we have to find our tribe. But if there's a tribe that's different from me next door, celebrate them being in their own tribe. Well, I don't have to go to their dance and they don't have to come to my dance, but I don't have to throw fire at their dance and they don't have to throw. We just live next door to each other and they're going to cook their food and I'm going to cook my food and it's fine. It's fine. It's so interesting because the more we're screaming for freedom, the more we're squeezing each other and we're hurting the energy systems of each other and we're restricting our own freedom. There's so much restriction that I can't wait until people just bust out of that energy of just non-freedom,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
invisible
Yeah. I
pain.
agree. I agree with the don't put things in boxes. I know that we need to label things. And the way that I describe that is my my dad was Navajo. His English is his second language, and what he would say is that English speakers think different than Navajo thinkers and speakers.
Mhm.
And it's almost like a right hemisphere versus left hemisphere type of a thing. He said, so an English thinker, an English speaker, somebody who speaks English thinks in English. If they go up to a tree, they will say, the task is to get to know the tree. They would say, oh, that's the trunk. Those are the branches. Those are the leaves. That's a tree. I know it because they label everything, right? They label it all. And that's very scientific. It's very left centric brain putting labels in order to understand. And then there's the Navajo. And when you go, okay, Navajo, get to know that tree, the Navajo will see it as an organism and go, huh. And then it sees that the wind is blowing the leaves in this way. And then it sees that my hair is going in this way. And then it knows that there is something unseen that connects me and the tree. So we move together. Now I know the tree. And so it is a balance that we have to take that we can be so scientific that we lock everybody out of their liberty. But
Mhm.
we do need some sort of descriptors, but not
Right, right, right.
labels. That I like
I,
that.
and I love what you're saying because that is so the English speaker will look at the Navajo and say that's the shadow. The Navajo will look at the English and say that's the shadow. And the truth is they're both right. and they have to live in balance together. They're both light and they're both dark, and they're both great and wonderful. And the Navajo can learn from the English, and the English can learn from the Navajo. Imagine us being able to feel the organism and be able to understand how it works scientifically and be able to appreciate it spiritually and scientifically. I
Yeah.
mean, that, like you said, is just so much deeper and so much realer. And that's why things are in the shadow, is because no, we don't give room to the other tribe.
Yeah.
And instead of learning from each other, oh no,
Yeah.
you're that's bad. No, no,
Right.
that's bad.
Right. Instead of being open. And you know what, honestly, Stephanie, I think that people do that because it's easier to point the finger at somebody else's stuff than to look within and figure out your stuff. So the more stuff that you're hiding from yourself, the more judgmental you can be. That's what
Yeah,
I've noticed in the world,
yeah,
or even with myself. It's like, wow, I'm being really judgmental. What about myself am I not accepting?
right, right.
How
And
am I
there's a
talking?
lot of fear with that because people have a hard time, being able to admit fault, just as simple as that. I
Yeah.
was having a conversation with a girlfriend the other day, and she was actually listening to a podcast. So I don't know where this phrase originated. It was passed down through modern day storytelling,
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
but she used these two words, volunteer victim. And it's like that makes a lot of sense when we're not willing to, once we're past a certain stage and we're not willing to, or we're too scared to look at our stuff, we're repeating the cycle of things that happened a long time ago. And then we become volunteer victims,
Wow.
over and over
Mhm.
again. And that's where God, and I have been so stubborn my whole life, egotistical, stubborn, emotional. I'm bossy through and through. I would love to talk to the shadow and astrology because Capricorn, Scorpio, Taurus. I mean, you don't get bossier than that. And that is my, astrology DNA. But
Mhm.
since doing the shadow work, yeah, I mean, that looks so interesting. Since doing this, I'm like, okay, no, yeah, okay, my stubbornness and my God-like, uh, what is it? Anyway, my ego
Sure.
it gets in the way. It gets in the way of my growth. It gets in the way of my learning. It gets in the way of everything about and me being able to connect to people.
Yeah.
You know, I have again, and that's a shadow and a superpower because I can connect one on one. But if there's a group, I will not connect to the group. I can't. It's very, very difficult. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of, of course, hidden shadow stuff, but I
Sure.
haven't gotten past that yet. I can't,
Sure.
it's very hard for me to connect to more than one person at a time.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think I can connect with one on one. That's the easiest for me in deep conversation. That's where I thrive. Or put me on stage so that,
I'm the same. I
but
can talk to a room full of people, but don't talk back to me.
put me in the middle of a party, I'm overwhelmed.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah, so I totally get that too. So it looks like I love it. We still have a couple people here. Please feel free to drop a hello in, but I'm thinking that we should we've been here for about 44, 45 minutes. I think we should start wrapping up. So let us know if you guys like these lives. We need to build some sort of something around it so that we give you guys what you want to spend your time listening to. Let us know. Please connect with us. But anyway, Stephanie, is there anything that you want to say final about the shadow and superpowers and all of that kind of thing?
I just think that I love that you brought this up last week, superpowers, because for me, I think that is the celebration that we're missing with each other. I think that I had this might be a long-winded one, but I feel it's important. I remember having a conversation with a girlfriend when I was 18. We were sitting in a car and there was like a whole bunch of 18-year-olds sitting in a car. And the debate was talent and who in this planet was talented, right? And she was saying musicians are talented, artists are talented. And I said, engineers are talented. She goes, no, no, they learned that. I said, okay, but they're talented in studying. Doctors are talented. No, 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 they studied that. Yes, but they're still talented in science. And I think that people, superpowers truly are superpowers. When you embrace them and you go deep and you really bring out the things that you're ashamed of and the things that people told you you can't do, and find how that energy really works all together as one, it is an enormous talent. It is you. And I just don't think we celebrate that enough.
Yeah.
I think we need to find us. I mean, I get so passionate about it because I lived for 40 years abandoning myself. No
Yeah.
one else was really abandoning me. I was abandoning myself. And I will never do that again, and I'm now at 49, slowly coming out. I'm being reborn every day, every week, learning. And it's beautiful. And I just really hope, I don't care how old you are, just learn you, celebrate you. I
Yeah.
know you and I will celebrate them with them, but
Absolutely. I love that because then it brings it back to what hid the superpowers was shame, and what reveals and what brings them back to life is celebration. Well,
yes, yes,
I
yes.
love that.
Hmm.
I love that, Stephanie. So, anyway, thank you guys for sticking around and paying attention. Please let us know if you would like more of these and on whatever topic you guys want us to do. Otherwise, have a wonderful